2000, right back at you with another video. Yes. Welcome. I am so excited for this review. As you can tell, I can hardly get my words out. I can hardly contain my excitement. I have waited for this thing for oh so long. And after months and days and hours and minutes of waiting in excruciating pain sometimes, because I have wanted this thing so long, so bad. But he is finally here. Yes. And you're at Click the Title, you know exactly what we're covering here and who we're covering here in this awesome review. So let's dive head first into this awesome X Plus Gigantic Series figure review. And today we'll take a look at the X Plus Gigantic Series Rig Exclusive Edition of the Monsterverse 2021 version of King Kong. Yes. From his super cool appearance in the latest epic Monsterverse film, 2021's Godzilla vs. Kong. And as you can see, I have the big, awesome Alpha Titan, at least one of the Alpha Titans. Yes, I know Godzilla's the king. I know that. Don't come for me in the comment section, but let's face it, there were some Alpha Titans in the Monsterverse besides Godzilla, King Ghidorah, and of course Kong. But yes, God, I'm so happy that he is finally here after all this time. Yes. So you know how we do things around here. Let's get up close and personal with the packaging before we get into the awesome figure itself of Kong. And here's a picture of the box. You know what I'm saying? With the imprint or silhouette of the actual figure of Kong on the front. You know, Gigantic Series in Japanese text. His name Kong. The logo title of the film, Godzilla vs. Kong. Once again, this was a Rick exclusive. It didn't come with the standard edition. I talk more about that momentarily when I get to the backstory. But that's it with the box. And you know what? I have missed those Gigantic Series boxes. Because if you don't count the reissues of past Gigantic Series figures that they released last year, you know what I'm saying? They released, you know, or at least they reissued, I should say, the Gigantic Shin, but it was the clear red version. They reissued the 89 as a light up on his back fins, you know. They reissued Mechagodzilla, you know. But this is the first ever in the longest time of a brand new monster. Not a reissue, but a brand new monster, even outside of Godzilla, to make its way into the Gigantic Series. The last time we had a brand spanking new Gigantic Series figure that was not a reissue was, of course, the Favorite Sculptors line 1954 Godzilla, and that came out in the summer of 2021. So it has been 2 years since we have gotten a brand new, fresh Gigantic Series figure, and 2 years is far too long to wait. But I have to tell you, the wait was so well worth it for this guy. But again, the box, I miss those boxes. I really do. But that's it with the packaging, you know what I'm saying? But it's not about the packaging. It's about the awesome figure of Kong. Once again, this is the X Plus Gigantic Series Rig Exclusive Edition of the Monsterverse Kong 2021 from Godzilla vs. Kong. And again, and I just said earlier, or just now I should say, this was a Rick exclusive. The Rick exclusive was just Kong by himself. He didn't come with any extra features or accessories or anything like that, which I can understand from a certain point of view. I kind of wish that the axe would have came with him, because when I think about this version of Kong, I immediately think of the axe. But I know that the axe doesn't really get on a lot of people's good sides. And let me just forewarn you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get on my soapbox. I'm going to rant about a couple things during the course of this video, so try not to develop a thick skin. I'm just giving you my honest opinion, and this is my video, and it's my channel, and I can say what the heck I want, and if you get offended, just build a bridge and get over it. That's the only thing I got to say about that. Now let's get that out the way. But again, I can understand from a certain point of view why they made this into a Rick exclusive, because let's face it, I mean, there are a lot of Kong fans out there, but when you put them up against Godzilla, there's an overwhelming number of Godzilla fans versus Kong fans. There were a lot more fans on Team Godzilla as there were on Team Kong. There's like maybe 4 of us, to be honest, on Team Kong. Don't really care, quite frankly. So I can understand from a certain point of view why they made this into a Rick exclusive. But what I would have done, honestly, I would have made a standard where the standard would just come with Kong by himself, and the Rick would have came with Kong versus, you know, Kong with the axe. You know what I mean? Because I enjoyed the axe, quite frankly. I don't understand why people hate the axe so much. Because I've seen a lot of people online, really, that's where they draw the line when it comes to their suspension of disbelief, you know what I'm saying? In a genre of films where we've seen Godzilla fly, we've seen him talk, we see him convert himself into a giant magnet, we see him go to outer space. In the film franchise that has three-headed space dragons, cyborg space chickens, huge pollution monsters. We've seen Godzilla actually swim through lava and come out of Mount Fuji without a scratch. But the moment a giant monkey wields a giant axe, that's where you draw the line. Seriously? I don't understand that. I will never understand why people have a problem with the axe, but yet you're fine with everything that Godzilla did in the Showa period. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a disconnect there. Just being honest, you know what I mean? But again, if it were up to me, I would include a standard edition where, Kong by himself and the Rick came with Kong with the axe, But considering how the sculpt is, it'd probably be impossible for Kong to wield an axe, whatever. But I can see actually X Plus, augmenting the sculpt and reissuing it with an axe later on down the line if the demand is there. And I think there will be a demand for it because there was a lot of demand for this guy right here. So that's just a way for X Plus really to make more money. Because again, I talked about reissues, before I got into the meat and potatoes of this review. So, and we know X Plus to do that. They will make a reissue and make money off that reissue. There's nothing wrong with that. But I can see them down the line reissuing Kong and but including the axe along with him. Maybe change the arms where he can hold the axe in one hand and whatever. So I can see them doing that, which would be hell on my wallet, and I would probably get it anyway because I love Kong with the axe. You know me, I'm a huge King Kong fan anyway, but I can see them doing that. But either way, I'm just glad that we have this in our collections right now. And the backstory about this figure is this. We first saw pictures of this guy, I want to say at Summer Wonder Festival back in Japan, late summer last year, 2022. And again, that was like the biggest thing coming out of that show, literally, for me, that I was most interested in. Outside of the favorite sculptors line, Mechagodzilla 74 that they were teasing, this guy really, really set my bar up high, and I was so happy. I was so happy that they were finally doing a gigantic series version of Kong, because a lot of people were actually asking for more legendary gigantic Godzillas from X Plus. And there's nothing wrong with wanting things. There was nothing wrong with wanting things. But to be perfectly honest with you, at the time of this recording, they have made four legendary gigantic Godzillas in the gigantic series, courtesy of X Plus. All right, they got the Standard 2019, the Rick 2019. Both of those came out in late 2019. A year later, they brought out the gigantic Burning 2019, right? And most recently, like a month ago, at the time of this recording, I say February or maybe early March, they brought out the clear blue version of the legendary gigantic Godzilla 2019. But people were asking for a 2021 gigantic, to go up against Kong here. And to be honest with you, there's really not much of a difference between the 2019 and 2021 Godzilla. In terms of design, there's not much of a change. Character-wise, yes, you can say that the 2021 Godzilla is more aggressive and probably more villainous than the 2019 Godzilla. But on the surface, cosmetically, design-wise, there's really not much of a difference. So my point was, with us already having four gigantic legendary Godzillas, 2019, there's really no different than the 2021. Between the two monsters, Kong was the one that needed a gigantic series figure representation, not Godzilla. Not trying to say that they should never do a 2021, even though, again, as I said, there's really not much of a difference between 2021 and 2019. But between the two, I felt that Kong needed a gigantic series representation versus Godzilla. And now that we got one, I'm glad that we have one. But even though at that show, at Summer Wonder Festival, when he was first teased, there were a lot of people that were upset for a couple of things. One, when they showed this guy, they had the legendary gigantic 2019 Godzilla up against him. And let's say the size was a little bit off in comparison to that Godzilla. Because Kong sizes up pretty well up against that Godzilla. And we all thought that maybe because it was a prototype, right? We saw an unpainted prototype version of Kong. And maybe after they finish painting it, get all the bells and whistles done with the sculpt or whatever, that maybe they'll shrink him down. Maybe he'll come down in size to be comparable size-wise with Godzilla to make it accurate to the film. Spoiler alert, and you'll see the size comparisons momentarily. if you one of those fans that felt like that this Kong should be smaller in comparison to Godzilla, and he should not be the same size as Godzilla, you're gonna be disappointed. I'm just getting it out the way right now. You're gonna be disappointed. So a lot of people were complaining back then about the size of Kong, even though they were happy that he was coming. Another complaint I've seen some people have with this Kong is like in his mouth, they gave him like a double set of canines on his upper jaw, I think. That really got people all bent out of shape. For, you know what I'm saying? They were like, he shouldn't have those double teeth. It looks all wrong, blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting there like, if that's your hill to die on, I was just laughing at folks, to be honest with you. I mean, people are entitled to feel how they want to feel, just like how I'm am entitled to laugh at those people. You know what I'm saying? To me, that was like a lame criticism. I'm just being honest with you. You know, whatever. I'm not trying to take away their merit of their criticism, but to me, that's like if you complain that somebody gives you $1 million, but they give it to you all at once, and you're like, why couldn't you give me that $1 million in 20s? At the end of the day, it's still $1 million, right? So the double canines in the upper jaw, I really felt that wasn't like big of an issue, quite frankly. And it came up for pre-order, I want to say October of 2022, and it just got released at the time of this recording, late March going to early April. The first week in April of 2023. And again, that is the backstory how we got this version of Kong. I'm so glad that we got this version of Kong. Don't get me wrong. You know, I'm sure at some point X Plus will do a 2021 Legendary Gigantic. I'm sure they will, to pair up with Kong, you know, whatever. But again, once you see the Legendary Gigantic 2019 that I have up against Kong, even with the size inaccuracies between the two somewhat, seeing them two together will make all those reservations, or at least precautions, or whatever doubts you have if you want to get this figure, just go away. Because visually seeing this version of Kong up against that version of Godzilla is actually an epic shot, and we'll get to that in the later size comparisons. So that's it with the backstory of me getting Kong, and the backstory about the pre-order, when it came out, all the good stuff. So let's get up close and personal with this Gigantic Series version of Kong 2021. Right off the bat, the sculpt looks great. Like, the sculpt is so amazing. You know what I'm saying? The hair on Kong is just sculpted really well, like it's flowing all over his body really well. And that's the thing when it comes to vinyl figures. You know, making mammals into vinyl figures is kind of hard because, you know, with mammals, they have fur, they have hair. You got the Gargantuas, you got King Caesar, you got other various versions of Kong that the X Plus has done over the years. And they've done a good job, you know, with those monsters in question that I just talked about. And they have done a superb job here with Kong here on the Gigantic version. You know, the hair looks great, you know, whatever. Just every strand of fur looks like it's real lifelike, you know what I'm saying? It looks really, really good. If you go towards the back, his back, you know, Kong, this is a built-up version of Kong, kind of like a Brock Lesnar version of Kong. You know, he has the built-up chest. You know, it's kind of partially obstructed because of his arms in motion right here. But you can still see that he has a built, you know, Incredible Hulk-like chiseled chest, you know, whatever. But if you go towards the back, even the back looks chiseled. You know, you have the various muscles on his back. Looks really, really good. I'm not going to go towards his posterior. I'm not gonna go there. Let's just say that thing's chiseled too. That's all I got to say about that. The legs look good, you know, whatever. You know, the hair on his legs look great. His toes, his 5 toes, you know, 8 light toes look really, really good. Even the nails on each individual toe look really, really good. Again, going towards the front, like I said, the chest looks great. Again, just all the musculature in his chest. He looks buff, you know, whatever. Even though this is an older version of Kong from Kong Skull Island, you know, he still maintains his chest. So it's nice to see that between Kong Skull Island and Godzilla vs. Kong, he still kept his physique, you know, whatever. Speaking of his chest, you know, he has those 3 claw marks on his chest, presumably done by a skull crawler. So it's nice that they kept that there, you know, to simulate, you know, this is the same Kong from Kong Skull Island. And if you have like other versions of Kong from X Plus, you know, or Star Ace, you know, the original Kong or the second one that they done, they all have that scar on his chest, you know. And I'm glad that they replicated here in the Gigantic version. But the scar looks great. Again, the chest, the abdomen looks really, really good. You know, his hands, you know, are in a fist, you know, balled up fist position. Looks really, really good, you know. The hands look great. The arms, you know, the thick arms. Look really, really good. But I think the main selling point when it comes to this sculpture is the face. The face and the mouth of Kong. Look at that. Look how ferocious Kong is. Look how determined that Kong looks in this shot right here. You know, with the teeth just bulging out, you know, whatever. It's kind of funny that Kong has bigger teeth than Godzilla. And Godzilla's the bigger threat between the two. But even though I enjoy the Legendary Godzilla, my one nitpick when it comes to that version of Godzilla is that I think that his teeth are too small. Like, his teeth look like he couldn't even penetrate a pizza. I'm just being honest about it. His teeth look so small in comparison to past Godzilla designs, right? You know, where they had like the bigger teeth with the shark-like fangs, you know. GMK comes to mind, or the 91 comes to mind, or the 84 comes to mind, or the 64, just those big fangs, the big teeth that just come out of Godzilla's mouth. Even Shin Godzilla with the various teeth all over his mouth, right? But with Legendary, his teeth took a nosedive, in my opinion, in terms of size. They just look so small. Again, I can't see him biting down a pizza and breaking it in half. But at least Kong's teeth look really, really good. He probably should have resorted to biting Godzilla more so in Godzilla vs. Kong. But the teeth look really, really good. They're sculpted really, really well. The inside of the mouth looks really, really well. Even his beard, because that was like a thing that they did with this version of Kong to make it somewhat different looking. Again, to make him older, you know, than his 2017 counterpart from Skull Island. So the beard looks great. You know, the eyes look really, really good. The way they painted the eyes looks so awesome. The ears looks really, really good. I know some people have had an issue with somewhat of an issue with the way they sculpted the head, because his head is looking upwards a little bit. I think it's fine. You know, I think it looks good, you know. And considering that Godzilla was the bigger monster of the two in the film, it would make much sense for Kong to be looking up at him, even though the figure version... I hate to keep going back to that, but I have to be honest. Again, this Kong is almost the same size as the Legendary Gigantic Godzilla from X+, which you'll see. So him going upwards is like he's looking past Godzilla, because Godzilla's kind of a little bit shorter than him, or at least, you know, kind of like the same size as him, where he's looking over him. I know some folks don't really like that. I'm sorry. Just build a bridge and get over it. Just build a bridge and get over it. But either way, the sculpt of Kong, you know, the way they painted their hair, they sculpted their hair, the paint job looks great. The teeth, you know, individually sculpted, the paint job on the teeth, the paint job on the interior of the gums and the mouth, his eyes. Just, you know, you have the, you know, the lighter shade of browns on the majority of Kong's body, with the darker shade of browns, you know, on his skin, on his hands, you know, the interior of his face, his toes, you know, whatever. You know, this is just a solid version of Kong. I've seen a lot of people say this is the best version of Kong that X+ has ever done, and honestly, I can't argue with that. Even though I'm a huge fan of the second 30cm Kong that they put out, you know, the one with the base, you know, the one with the chain on his hand or his wrist or whatever. I always thought that was the best one, but I think he kind of got trumped with this guy right here. So a lot of people, if you slept on this, please, I'm telling you right now, this guy is impressive. It is amazing. Again, whether you're a Kong fan or not, you owe it to yourself to put this in your collection, especially if you have the Legendary Gigantic Godzilla from X+. Again, seeing these two together is a visual treat, which you'll see momentarily. But again, if you slept on this release, please wake up from that nightmare and go online right now and get this guy before he becomes horribly overpriced. Or like I said, I can see X+ reissuing this guy, maybe changing the sculpt, and then maybe adding the axe go along with Kong. You know, they could do that. You know, we don't know if they will do that. But, you know, I can see them doing that down the line. But until that happens, if you want a great gigantic size version of Kong, great detailed gigantic size version of Kong, besides the Prime 1 and other Kongs that are out there, get your hands on the X+. It's more affordable than Prime 1 and some other Kongs out there. You get more bang for your buck, in my opinion, with this version of Kong from X+. And I highly, highly recommend it. So far, my favorite acquisition as far as X+ this year of 2023. I don't know what else is coming out this year. You know, I know they're doing another X+ Gigantic Series figure of Godzilla himself. That's the 2002. That might come out this year. That's the only thing I see in maybe toppling this guy. But until then, this is my favorite figure acquisition as far as like X+ in this year of 2023. It is awesome. It is amazing. If you're a Kong fan, you owe it to yourself to add this guy into your collection ASAP. All right, so let's do a couple size comparisons before we go into the final commentary portion of the video. And again, you know I'm a huge King Kong fan. You know that. I'm a huge King Kong fan. And I have a few Kongs. Just a few in my collection, you know what I'm saying? So let me bring a few up in this first size comparison and see how they look up against this awesome, gigantic version of the Monsterverse Kong in the first size comparison. So let's do that, ladies and gentlemen, right now. Okay, folks, here we are with the first size comparison, or should I say Kong size comparison. And yes, the man in the owl in the background, the X Plus Gigantic Series Monsterverse version of Kong 2021 from Godzilla vs. Kong. As you can see, I have other various versions of Kong in my collection that I want to put in this size comparison. And this is a great shot right here of the various versions of Kong. And again, once again, this is the 90th anniversary of King Kong, of him being a character. You know, the monster that really pioneered in a lot of ways the giant monster movie craze, you know, King Kong. Plug, I want to plug the Monsters with Attitude Show YouTube channel. Please go to their YouTube channel. They just did a discussion in regards to the 1933 King Kong. It was a great, fun, informative discussion, and I highly recommend you go back and listen to that discussion. You know, but they were just honoring, you know, that movie and basically honoring, again, the monster that in a lot of ways pioneered the giant monster craze. So it's nice to see this comparison of the various Kongs that we have gotten over the years. Not every single one of them that has been out there is in this shot, but just a good chunk of them. You know, so let's go from left to right. You know, next to the gigantic Monsterverse Kong, I have another gigantic size version of Kong with the Tony Cipriano model kit of the 1962 version of King Kong from King Kong vs. Godzilla. You know what I'm saying? The two big guys in the back, you know, whatever. So it's great to see two gigantic size versions of Kong, different versions of Kong, both of them who fought a version of Godzilla, no less. So it's nice to see that comparison between those two. Down in the foreground from him, I have the first 30 centimeter Roto Kaiju 1967 version of King Kong from King Kong Escapes. That's the first one that they did. They just did an upgraded reissue of that kit. It's a bigger version, a more detailed version. I hope to get that real soon. So I can't wait to add that to my collection. But that was the first that they did. It kind of kickstarted just the whole Roto Kaiju model kit craze. You know what I'm saying? Below him, I have the Deathville version of Kong where he's fighting the squid from Kong Skull Island. Next to him in the foreground, I have, coincidentally, you know, in the background, we got the big 2021 version of Kong. Right there in the foreground is a 25 centimeter version of Kong that comes with the axe, you know, whatever. You know, that figure is cool for what it is. But again, I just wish that at some point we will get an axe wielding version of the gigantic Monsterverse version of Kong in the near future. But only time will tell with that. Up against him, I have the second version of the 30 centimeter Star H/X Plus version of Kong from Kong Skull Island. Next to him, I have the first version that came out. Next to him, I have the, in the foreground, below him, excuse me, I have the original Deathville version of Kong by himself. And finally, on the far right, I have the 30 centimeter Roto Kaiju version of the 1962 version of King Kong. And as you can see here, this is great. This is great with the size comparison, the comparison of Kongs and the various versions of Kongs in general. You know what I'm saying? And again, 90 years has been a long time since this thing has been out there. You know, he has been through different movies, different parodies, different incarnations, you know, whatever. But you can't deny his place in pop culture. You know, back in the day, he was the most popular monster, even more so than Godzilla. Nowadays, I would say maybe Godzilla is more popular in a lot of ways. But make no mistake, King Kong still has a lot of name recognition. And it's nice to see that he's getting a lot of praise and honor this year in regards to his 90th anniversary. And I hope that we see more of that, quite frankly, before the year is out. This is great. With all the various Kongs I have in my collection, I have more, but that's all I want to put in this size comparison. So now, I know I've been kind of teasing it for the majority of the video, but now the wait is over. And there's only one more size comparison that makes the most sense. And now we have the X Plus Gigantic Series version of the Monsterverse Kong. It is time to put him up against the monster that he fought in Godzilla vs. Kong with the X Plus Gigantic Series 2019 version of the Legendary Godzilla. The wait is finally over. So let's see how these two Alpha Titans look together in this final epic size comparison. So let's do that, ladies and gentlemen, right now. Well, I am amused. I'm amused. I'm so amused by this. All right, folks. This is the final size comparison, and yes, alongside the X Plus Gigantic Series Monsterverse version of the 2021 Kong, I have the monster that he fought in Godzilla vs. Kong with the X Plus Gigantic Series 2019 version of Godzilla. And again, the difference between Godzilla 2019 and 2021, there's not really much of a difference, quite frankly. But I forewarned y'all, that this Kong was somewhat size inaccurate to Godzilla here. And, I mean, we should have known that, considering that the first time we saw these guys at Wonderfest, Kong was exactly this size up against Godzilla. So again, I'm sure people thought that maybe once they get the final product done, that there would probably be some shrinkage involved, and maybe he would scale better due to that shrinkage. But as you can see here, this is the same size in the final product of Kong that it was in the first prototype that we saw him. And this is not accurate size-wise, because we all know Godzilla was the bigger monster of the two in the film. But at the same time, I think seeing these two together is really, really an awesome thing. Now, unless you're really nitpicky about sizes between the monsters should be accurate to the film, then obviously this size comparison is not going to really ease your minds at all. But for me, finally seeing these two together, the Monsterverse version of Godzilla and Kong, both in the Gigantic series together, it looks well. It looks really, really good. Again, I can understand why people may be a little bit upset that Kong is a little bit bigger than what he should be in comparison to Godzilla. But being a Team Kong fan, selfishly, considering how Kong lost in the film, I kind of look at this as a win. Because so many people are so bothered and upset that Kong is bigger, or if not as big as Godzilla. So I'm going to take that. If that offends you, then again, build a bridge to get over it. But I'm having so much fun being a Kong fan. Yeah, you can poke fun at me in the comment section by Kong lost. He was put in cardiac arrest. He almost died at the hands of Godzilla. All that good stuff. And you're not wrong. That's exactly what happened in the film. I'm not going to justify it. But Team Kong fans are winning right now because Kong is just about the size of Godzilla. But again, seeing Kong and Godzilla together, even though the size are maybe a little bit off, you can't deny seeing these two together is a real cool shot between these two alpha titans. Even though Godzilla is the king, he beat Kong fair and square twice, so he is the undisputed king. But it's nice to see Kong kind of get a little bit of revenge of being almost bigger than Godzilla. So that's it with all the size comparison I want to put with this video. Again, I love this X Plus Gigantic Series version of the Monsterverse Kong. So if you're able to find one out there in the wild before it gets too horribly overpriced, I highly recommend you go after this piece. You will not regret it, especially if you're a Kong fan. So that's it with all the size comparisons. Let's go with the final commentary portion of the video with my final thoughts of the X Plus Gigantic Series exclusive edition of the Monsterverse 2021 Kong from Godzilla vs. Kong. So let's go to that final commentary portion of the video right now. Okay, folks, I'm back with my final thoughts of the X Plus Gigantic Series exclusive edition of the Monsterverse Kong 2021 from its epic appearance from Godzilla vs. Kong. 10 out of 10. This thing is so amazing. You know what I'm saying? Even despite the size inaccuracies when you have it up against the legendary Gigantic Godzilla 2019. Despite all that, despite the fact it doesn't come with the axe, which I wish it would have done, quite frankly, or would have had, I still say this thing is perfect. I still say this thing is amazing. It is awesome. And again, I know a lot of people out there were kind of on the fence about getting this guy, you know. Even some Team Godzilla fans who may not want to admit out loud that they would have liked to have this in their collection. But if you own that fence, I highly advocate that you get off that fence, go online right now, and get this guy before it becomes horribly overpriced. The detail on the hair is great. The sculpt is great. The detail on his teeth, the coloring on his teeth and his mouth, the whole 9 yards. This is just an awesome, fantastic sculpt and rendition of the Monsterverse King Kong. If you were impressed with the other ones that they have done in the 30 centimeter scale, even the Defo reels, right? They applied that same magic and craftsmanship, expert craftsmanship to the Gigantic series. And again, if you're on the fence about getting this guy, get off this fence, because this is a great figure. I don't know if it'll win Figure of the Year as far as X Plus, but it should definitely be in the running. And as it stands right now, this is my most favorite figure acquisition as far as X Plus so far this year of 2023. And again, this is so great. You saw the size comparisons up against the Gigantic Godzilla 2019. But even if you have this, let's say the Spiral Studios King Ghidorah, and you put Kong and Godzilla up against Ghidorah, that is a great shot. And quite frankly, I wish we would have gotten that in the Monsterverse. I know I made that clear a few times before, that nothing against Godzilla and Kong up against Mechagodzilla that we got in the film. I would have loved to have seen Godzilla and Kong team up to fight King Ghidorah. You know what I'm saying? I would have loved to have seen that visual of seeing both Kong and Godzilla take on King Ghidorah, you know? But at least if you have the Spiral Studios King Ghidorah, and if you have the X Plus Legendary Gigantic Godzilla, and if you get your hands on Kong here, you can recreate that fantasy setup and visualize what could have happened if Kong and Godzilla took on King Ghidorah / Monster Zero, you know what I'm saying? But whether you have him up against Godzilla or Ghidorah or any other Kong that you have in your collection, again, this is such a solid piece. It really is such a solid piece. Now, before we get up out of here, let's talk about Kong's role in Godzilla vs. Kong. And I know you're probably thinking I'm going to be really down about the film, quite frankly, because Kong lost. Honestly, Kong losing doesn't really bother me. I mean, it really doesn't. I'm not saying it to save face here. Kong losing doesn't really bother me. I kind of figured that he would lose. I'll touch on that momentarily. But even though I still have issues with the human plot of this film, I still find this film to be really fun, really entertaining. I know this film is like in the category with Son of Godzilla or Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, or some other films like that, where it's real divisive. There are some fans that absolutely love it. There are some fans that absolutely hate it. I kind of fall in the middle, where I don't hate it, but I don't necessarily love it either, but I enjoy it for what it is. And it was a fun romp from beginning to end. Again, despite my issues with the human plot of these stories, and yes, human plots in Godzilla films are important, people. Yes, I know that we go to these movies to watch Godzilla and the monsters, but a human storyline to go along with the monster action is vital in these films. Okay, that's another rant I had to get off my chest. Again, despite my issue with the human plot, I do find this film has the best monster action in terms of the Monsterverse, the best looking monster action in terms of the Monsterverse. So it does have its perks, but again, I wish the human story could have been a little bit stronger. But it still does not take away my overall enjoyment of the film. Now, going back to Kong losing here. Now, again, I know I have talked so much crap and junk leading up to Godzilla vs. Kong, because, you know, there were Team Godzilla and there were Team Kong. You know, and I know there are a lot more fans out there that were on Team Godzilla, where the minority of us was on Team Kong, or were on Team Kong. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not changing sides for whatever. I am fine, and I will not justify the fact that Kong lost twice. You know what I'm saying? It was definitive. I'm not going to make any excuses for it. He lost. Godzilla was a better monster. He was the most powerful monster. He put Kong to bed twice, emphatically, indefinitely. I will take nothing away from that. But what kind of had me put on the idea that Godzilla was gonna win was two things. One, before the film came out, I think it came out overseas. You know, and I think somebody online on Facebook posted like a non-spoilerish review of the film. And he said in so many words, basically, that yes, this is a fun film, and yes, there is a definitive winner. He didn't say who it was, you know, out of respect for people who didn't see the film yet. But he did say that, whoever said that fans of both monsters will come away happy, right? So that kind of gave me an idea that, okay, maybe Kong may lose, you know, whatever. That was my first clue. The second clue was actually during the fight itself. Now, there's no question in the first fight on the water, Godzilla won that. You know, I mean, Kong was at a huge disadvantage there. You know what I'm saying? I'm not making no excuses for him, but I knew going in, Kong was not going to win that fight. But at least in Hong Kong, he has somewhat of a fighting chance. Somewhat. There were times Kong actually manhandled Godzilla. One of the few monsters in the Monsterverse that can actually have enough power to physically manhandle Godzilla. King Ghidorah can do it, but besides him and besides Kong, there's not too many monsters that could have manhandled Godzilla. At least that version of Godzilla. But Kong did a few times. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta give Kong credit on that front. But the moment that made me believe that Kong was definitely going to lose this fight was after he uses his axe and whacks Godzilla in the head, and they both go flying. They show a close up of the axe after that exchange, and the axe just fizzles out. You know what I'm saying? Because up until that point, the axe was glowing with radiation. But after he smashed Godzilla in the head, all that radiation just went away, and the axe just fizzled down to nothing. And that right there was like, yeah, Kong ain't winning this one. Kong is not winning this one, you know what I mean? But on top of that, seeing Godzilla go into beast mode and go on all fours to physically take down Kong, you know what I mean? Because he could have easily just burned him alive, because he tried a few times to use his atomic breath on Kong before, right? But he didn't do it in the last stages of the fight. He was like, you know what? I'm tired of playing with you, because that was what was revealed during this film, that Godzilla really the whole time was holding back on Kong. He could have taken out Kong a long time ago, but people just toying with Kong. But after that axe attack, Godzilla was like, you know what? I'm done playing with you. And Godzilla just went down on all fours and just went in beast mode. And I was so into the fight that, again, I actually forgot what team I was on. Because I was so into Godzilla just tearing the crap out of Kong. But I'm like, wait a minute, I'm on Team Kong. Why am I going for Godzilla? You know what I mean? Because I wanted to see that Godzilla come in the Monsterverse ever since we got those dark, cryptic trailers from the 2014 film that made you believe that we were going to get the evil badass Godzilla, right? But we never got that up until this point where we see Godzilla being more so an aggressive type of beast. And to see him unleash all that aggressiveness on Kong to take him out was really, really fun to see. And then at the very end, where Godzilla screams in his face to submit, and Kong roars right back at him, that was it. That was the moment that really ended the fight. You know what I'm saying? Basically telling Kong to submit. And you can argue that Kong was saying, I quit to Godzilla. Or you can probably say that Kong was like, look, you know what? Finish me off. Like, you got me where you want me. Finish me off, or whatever. Because Godzilla, at that point, he could have killed Kong. He really had Kong dead to rights. No pun intended. But Godzilla didn't do anything. Not do anything. Godzilla didn't kill him when he had the chance. But ordinarily, he would have killed his adversary. But I think Godzilla let Kong live because he respects the fact that Kong put up a good fight. And he knows that Kong was really not a threat to the world like the Mutos and King Ghidorah was. So I think Godzilla really felt for Kong in that moment. Like, you know what? All right, got you beat, so I'm going to let you die in peace. Because after that point, after Godzilla went away, Kong tried to get up and he tried to go after Godzilla again, but his body was so racked with pain and injury, he couldn't really do anything. And at that point, he was dying at that point. So again, I don't really have a problem with that, because at least Kong tried. You know what I'm saying? He looked strong in defeat. And there's nothing wrong with looking strong in defeat, especially what comes later when Mechagodzilla appears. And at the end of that fight, Kong is the one that really takes care of Mechagodzilla. Yes, Godzilla helps. I'm not going to take anything away from Godzilla. But at the end of that fight, Kong was the one that beat Mechagodzilla in a lot of ways. And for Kong to beat the monster that had Godzilla beat goes back to what that guy said involving the non-spoilerish review of the movie before we got a chance to see it, that the fans of both monsters would come away happy. And honestly, that was the best outcome, quite frankly, because one had to lose. Because honestly, I interpret the 1962 ending of the film as Kong winning, right? I know some folks want to debate that, and that's fine. We're not here for that. But in my opinion, Kong was the winner of that fight. It wasn't a draw. It wasn't anything like that. So Kong, kind of like Mothra in the next film, has a win over Godzilla. And this film was kind of like a way for Godzilla to get his win back. You know what I'm saying? So in my opinion, both Kong and Godzilla have a win over each other. And I think it should stay that way. Because again, I love both Kong and Godzilla equally. The reason why I went for Kong in this film, because I'm always going for the underdog. And between Godzilla and Kong will always be the underdog up against Godzilla. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I really went for Kong. But I love them both equally the same. I know some Godzilla fans can't stand Kong. They don't like Kong. They don't get the appeal of Kong. They wanted Godzilla to waste Kong, which he did. So you basically got what you wanted. But us Kong fans got what we wanted too by having Kong beat the monster that had Godzilla beat. So again, this film does a great job to honor both fans of both of the monsters. You know what I'm saying? So I really do enjoy this film for doing that. You know what I'm saying? But again, aside from the fact that the human story isn't really what it should be, the monster action delivers on a superb level. You know what I'm saying? And each time I watch Godzilla vs. Kong, I gain more appreciation for it. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it would ever be in my top 10, but it's a film that I get more enjoyment and fun out of it when I watch it more and more and more. And to now have a legendary gigantic series set up of both the Monsterverse Godzilla and Kong that I can see on my shelves pretty much every single day, it's a great blessing. You know what I'm saying? So that's my thoughts involving Godzilla vs. Kong, or at least Kong's role in Godzilla vs. Kong. I'm sure I'll probably do a deep dive into the movie at some point, you know, whatever. I'm sure I will. But until then, those are my thoughts. I have no issue with Kong losing. You know, at least he looked strong in defeat. He gave it his best shot. But, you know, it wasn't enough to beat the powerful king of the monsters. And I will give y'all that. You know what I'm saying? But until then, this is a great rendition of the Monsterverse Kong. Probably the best that they have ever done. Better than the 30cm versions of both the 2017 version of Kong. You know, it looks great, you know, whatever. But this one looks light years better. The sheer size, the sheer detail is phenomenal. And you cannot go wrong with this figure. Yes. So that pretty much concludes my review of the X Plus Gigantic Series exclusive edition of the Monsterverse 2021 Kong. From its epic appearance from the 4th Monsterverse epic film, fun film, 2021's Godzilla vs. Kong. If you have any questions, comment down in the comment section. Hit me on Facebook via Let's Be Chambers. We'll definitely go from there. Yes, once again, woo, great. This thing is so great. Again, as a huge Kong fan, I'm glad to have this in my collection. You know what I'm saying? Like the time that it took for this guy to get here after all this time, after waiting for some type of a gigantic version of Kong to come from X Plus, after waiting for so long, after getting multiple Godzillas, it's nice that they finally show Kong some love on the year that he turns 90 years old. So that's a good thing. But again, if you're on the fence about getting this guy, again, you saw the size comparisons up against the Legendary Godzilla 2019, quite frankly. Yes, it's inaccurate, but I think the sheer visual of seeing both Kong and Godzilla together is great. But again, there are other alternative gigantic Godzillas out there, legendary Godzillas, from not only from X Plus, but from other various companies out there. So you may see one out there that may be big enough that can size perfectly with this Kong here. But you need Kong first, you know what I'm saying? So if you want a great epic gigantic series version of Kong to go up against an epic gigantic series version of the legendary Godzilla, get your hands on this guy. You would not be disappointed. Yes. And so my last video, I touched upon the 55cm Tenjitsu Craft of the 1984 Godzilla. You know, it's in the archives of my channel. Please check it out. It was the last video. Now I'm doing Kong, a non-Godzilla character. Now let's go back to Godzilla, and I teased it a few times before, but now I'm doing it. I will finally deliver to you the KOC 40cm 1955 Godzilla, also known as Gigantus. That will be the next video, I promise, on Leslie Chambers Kaiju Review, so please stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, get your hands on this figure. You will not be disappointed. So ladies and gentlemen, I finally give to you the X Plus Gigantic Series exclusive edition of the Monsterverse Kong for 2021's Godzilla vs. Kong. Yes. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see y'all again on this figure move review. All right? Y'all take it easy.